Welcome to the ITIL Framework Updated course from Cybrary IT. My name is Daniel Reilly. I'm your subject matter expert on the ITIL Framework. In this video, I want to briefly cover some of the concept and language that we'll be using throughout the course, so that way we have a similar understanding of what we're talking about. Now, one of the key concepts when we're talking about ITIL is that the point is to force us to think strategically, and that's why when I showed you the diagram earlier, and I'll come back to it again later, the strategic service strategy is at the core, and that's to help us stay relevant in the long term. Service providers should be customer focused. This means having good customer support as well as good customer relationship management, which we'll also talk about. When you're talking about ITIL and services, the key that we've discussed is defining a service explicitly. And these involve the service level agreements and the operational level agreements and any kind of underpinning contracts. And this is also that we can deliver services at a certain expected rate. And then, of course, continuous improvement keeps us from becoming stagnant, and in business, stagnation is very dangerous. So service management sits between the development and production side of the organization, as well as the client and business side on the other side. So it really acts as an interface or a mediary between those two business interests. And the activities in application and development operations are considered to be coordinated under one channel of communication, and that channel of communication is the service catalog or the service portfolio, and everything is considered as a service like we discussed previously. So some keys to remember when you're discussing and implementing ITIL is the purpose of ITIL is the processes are to define the number of key principles that you're going to want to follow throughout your entire business model. And a number of these processes are going to work together to achieve some common goals. So during your strategic planning processes, you will be informing a lot of your future processes, such as your operational management and your key performance indicators. So organizations that wish to adopt ITIL need to remember that they will have to customize the approach. ITIL covers a lot of sectors of IT, and not all parts of it will be applicable to all types of businesses. So you will have to take what I'm saying and model it after your specific needs. And the key to successfully using ITIL is to understand the core idea and principles. Lots of businesses will try to sell you software, and software will help you manage this. But if you're not good at the fundamental principles that underlie the use of the software, then you really won't be able to maximize its benefits. So we're going to cover some of the language, but I really encourage you to go and look up the definitions of the terminology in the official glossary, which I'll give you a link to at the end. These are just some terms that I think it's important that we discuss, even if you do not go look at the glossary. So separation of concerns is a way of designing solutions for IT that divide the problem into pieces. And the key is that each piece can be solved individually and then assembled into ideally an answer for the whole problem. Another one is the service portfolio. Now, this is the overarching collection of the services that are being offered in all life cycle phases. This includes ones that are in the pipeline to be released, as well as services that have been retired, and all the ones in between. So service contracts are the way in which we explicitly define what it is we will be delivering in terms of a service, what we'll provide, as well as the levels of expectation that clients can provide or can expect from our provisions. Now, a service level agreement is a special case of a service contract. It's usually an amended agreement which describes those very things. The key performance indicators and other measurable things like downtime is commonly defined in a service level agreement. And you'll hear this referred to as the 4 nines or the 5 nines of reliability. So a service manager is kind of a generic term, but it's often used to specifically refer to a business relationship manager. Um, but in terms of ITIL, it's anyone who is responsible for managing a service throughout the organization. Now, the service owner is a different role, and this role is more responsible for managing and owning a life cycle all the way through its entire life cycle. This is generally a higher manager as opposed to a middle management position. A service valuation is the measurement of the total cost of delivering an IT service, measured against the value that the service is expected to bring into the business. Now, this can be both quantitative, a measure of explicit numbers, or qualitative, a measure of implication or personal observation. So service capacity management is something that we'll talk about in the next section a little bit more. But the overall idea of this is that it's a sub-process which helps to manage the capacity or demand on a service, and it's responsible for understanding where we are now and where we need to be in the future to be more efficient. Now, as I said, here's the link to the full glossary, and I would encourage you to read, because there are several more definitions which will be important to know throughout the course and throughout your implementation of ITIL. With that, we've come to the end of this video. I'd like to thank you for watching, and as always, if you have any questions, you can contact me on cybrary.it. My username is Twarter, Twarter.